Rishus, Rabbi Gruskin, Dr. Leibowitz, and the Kol HaKol HaKodesh Hazeh. I wear two hats tonight, and I wasn't sure which one I was being called upon to utilize, but since the Yeshiva is not here yet, I guess I'm going to use both. I was a caregiver for many years to my father, amongst others, who had a very rare form of a movement disorder. In addition to emotionally, I've traveled the world and had the experience of looking for answers in an illness that doesn't have a lot of answers and finding a lot of solutions to deal with a lot of the situations that arise. I also am a licensed clinical social worker who has had the privilege of getting to know and working with many families who had to deal with this type of situation and similar illnesses that are classified as degenerative. I did some research specifically for the illness of Parkinson's, and I found that 25% of people who have Parkinson's will develop a major depression. 25% of people will develop what they call a more minor depression. 25% will develop an anxiety disorder, and 80% will develop an executive functioning problem that has to be addressed. In this, I guess, small talk, I'm going to focus on depression because it's something that I can accomplish something today, and you can walk out with something lamaisla rather than executive functioning, which would require a lot more time. Parkinson's is not an illness that affects the individual. It's a family illness. It affects in a very, very big way everybody that's a caregiver and involved intimately in the life of the person that has the diagnosis. I'd like to share with you things that helped me and my family, the caregivers of my father, Olav Hashalom, in our endeavor, and really, really made a difference in my father's quality of life, which those who knew him know that he lived every single minute. I heard from a smart person, and he told me this follows: I may have Parkinson's, but Parkinson's doesn't have me. There's a famous story of somebody that was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he went to his Rav in Flatbush, and he told the Rav that he's extremely depressed because of his diagnosis. And his Rav recommended that he make the trip there to Israel and go speak to Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, who, as everybody knows, had an extreme case of Parkinson's and lived an extremely fruitful life every single day of his life. And he told him, if you go there, it'll help you. You'll speak to him, you'll come back, and hopefully it'll have a positive effect. The person made the trip there to Israel. And he went to Mir Yeshiva, and Mir Yeshiva has window panes in the doors into Beis Medrash. And when he arrived, the Rosh Yeshiva was giving his shir klali that he gave every week, surrounded by his 4 standards with his apparent Parkinson's. And the person looking in the window saw what he saw. He turned around, got his answer, and he went home, and he never ever met the Rosh Yeshiva to speak to him. What he saw was this message: I may have Parkinson's, but Parkinson's doesn't have me. Earlier this week, I was with Reb David Schlesinger from Muncie, and he shared an unbelievable idea in regard to adversity. We find in Hilchos Shabbos there's stira, destruction, and there's also b'niyah. So the Gemara asks the question, why is stira malacha? It's makalkal. If you're not accomplishing anything, you're just destroying, why is that considered a malacha? So the Gemara answers that not every destruction is considered a malacha. It's only soiser amanas livnois. If somebody destroys with the intent to build, then it's part of the building. So the Gemara then asks the question that we learn all the malachas from the Mishkan. And in the Mishkan, they didn't build in the same place. They actually dismantled the Mishkan and rebuilt it elsewhere. So why does it have to dafka be soisa manas livnos? And the Gemara answers that since it was al pi Hashem yachnu, they only went when Hashem told them to go. Therefore, kesoiser al manas livnos dami. It's as if they built in the same place. What does that mean? Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says an amazing insight to explain this Gemara. If you ask an adult, where are you today? They're going to say, in Lakewood. You ask them, where you're going to be tomorrow? Brooklyn. Where you're going to be on vacation? Miami. However, if you ask a child who's in his mother's arms, where are you? In my mother's arms. Where are you going to be tomorrow? In my mother's arms. Where are you when you're on vacation? In my mother's arms. That child is always in the same place. So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz explains, when we're living al pi Hashem, if what we're doing is we're in Hashem's arms, then we don't change places. We're always in the same place. Therefore, if it's al pi Hashem, then soiser amanas livnos dami. It's as if we never ever moved and went anywhere. But he went on to explain an amazing concept. And I'm going to explain it with a story. I saw a clip yesterday from Amy Prudy. You can find it. Whoever didn't see it, it's kedai to see it. It's a young woman who, when she was 19, developed a bacterial meningitis that she lost both of her legs, both of her kidneys, and her spleen to the illness. And after she awakened from her coma and figured out what was going on with her, she basically put herself into a self-induced coma and didn't come out of bed. After a while, she describes, she winded up changing her mindset. And she realized that she can utilize and see her problem in a different way. She came up with this model that this rigid block or this rigid boundary that was built around her life, instead of being on one side and being held back by it, she can actually go to the outside and push off of it and go into a new life. In short, she went on to win 2 gold medals. She developed organizations that are related to gymnastics for people with disabilities. She has changed the life in so many ways of thousands or maybe tens of thousands of people. And when she was asked, if you were able to redo it, if you were able to have another option, not have your illness, or life go this way, what would you prefer? And she said, no question about it, she would prefer it this way. Because before this, she said, I lived a life in one way. Since then, my life became a whole different experience. She changed the world. She lives with a whole different level of appreciation, a whole different level of accomplishment, a whole different level of vitality that she couldn't have before. That could be pshat. That was soiser amanas livnos. If we live with Hashem al pi Hashem yachnu, and we trust, like Rabbi Gruskin said, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu determines what our tafkid is and how we would appreciate and how we can achieve ultimate satisfaction, joy, happiness, the feelings of accomplishment in life, then it's soiser amanas livnos. True, it's adversity, but it's adversity with the intent and the accomplishment to build from here on. We can't deny that adversity is responsible for Hatzalah. We can't deny that adversity is responsible for Bnei Olam. We can't deny that adversity is responsible for Zichron Shlomo Refuah Fund. Adversity, the Holocaust, is responsible for the unbelievable and unprecedented growth in quality and quantity of Torah that happened in such a short period of time. I'll share with you a story of one of my teachers. His name is W. Mitchell. It's kedai to look it up. He wrote a book, and he has some tapes and videos. He's a guy that when he was 22 years old, he had the opportunity to fly a plane solo, which he explains was an amazing experience. You feel like you're a bird. You feel free. You feel like you own the world. And after he had this experience, he got off, and he went to his job. His job was he was a cable car gripman for the San Francisco cable cars. So he was a pretty strong gentleman. He got on his motorcycle to head back to work. And he was still daydreaming about the amazing experience of flying solo. I'm going to finish in 2 minutes. I'm going to cut it right. 2 minutes. He was so engrossed in his daydream of this experience of flying that he lost focus of his driving, and before he knew it, he noticed that his motorcycle was about to drive into a box truck. So in order to protect his life, being a good driver, he basically used his instinct to turn the motorcycle sideways and slide under the truck. But unfortunately, the gas cap fell off the motorcycle and all the gasoline spilled out, and from the friction, it ignited. In that accident, 65% of his body got burnt off. His fingers got burnt off to a crisp. His face got burned. Until somebody came out from a local dealership with a fire extinguisher and put the fire out. He was awoken a couple of months later, all grafted, no fingers. Every breath was painful. It was all burnt, and he was in an enormous amount of pain. Laying there, he thought to himself, I got two choices. I can either continue focusing on what happened to me, why it happened to me, or I can focus on what I could accomplish. He developed a model, which is the name of his book. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. He went on to become the #1 employer of the state of Vermont. He became a multimillionaire. He retired and he moved to Colorado within the next couple of years. 8 years later, an owner of his private owned airplane, very successful man. He got onto his airplane with 4 friends to fly and take a view over the Colorado Rockies. But he forgot to check the wings for ice. And he took off, and as soon as he took off, he realized that one of the wings were frozen. So to protect his life of falling down somewhere in the Rockies, he dropped the plane back on the runway. His first fear was fire. So he scrammed fire, 4 of his friends jumped out, he couldn't get out of the airplane. The EMTs came, they took him to the hospital, and basically he was told, from this accident, it affected your spine, you'll be paralyzed for the rest of your life, you're gonna be bound to a wheelchair. Of course, Vayaman Lesnachem, there was no way. People used to tell him, you remember what you used to say, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. He wasn't willing to hear anything. He said, one problem I hear, but another one, there's no way he was willing to get himself out of it. But after a while, he developed a new model. He thought to himself, I used to be able to do 10,000 things. I used to be able to walk. I used to be able to take things out of the cabinet myself, do things for myself. Now I can only do 9,000. Why should I focus on the 1,000 things that I can't do? Let me focus on the 9,000 things that I could do. He went on to become a mayor of the city where he lived. He ran for lieutenant governor of state Colorado. And he travels the world, probably one of the happiest people that walk on the face of the earth. And he tells people, true, my body is in a wheelchair, but my brain is free. You guys have free bodies, but you have a mental wheelchair. What's it all worth? And his message is extremely, extremely powerful as to what somebody could accomplish and achieve despite any physical boundaries. I'm going to finish with 2 quotes that I saw, which I think are apropos, and it comes from, it's not even Roy Lahaski Shemoy, but one of the most successful actors in the world that ever lived, developed Parkinson's, and there's 2 quotes that he said, and I'm just using it because he's somebody that has been in this situation. The first quote is, in fact, Parkinson's has made me a better person, better husband, better father, and overall better human being. The second quote he said, which I think is amazing, if you asked my kids to describe me, they'd go through a whole list of words before they'd even think of Parkinson's. And I don't think about that much either. I talk about it because it's there, not because it's my totality. I think there's an enormous amount to be learned and accomplished by all the different amazing people and caregivers who got to this point, and it required an enormous amount of understanding and chizik and godless, and we can all learn from a combined pool of this godless, and it can help everybody forge ahead even further. I'd just like to finish with the bracha that Hashem should help We should all be Zoicha, Bekarev, to Refuah Shalema, Refuah Sanefesh, Refuah Sagif, Bevias Goyal Tzedek, B'mheru v'yameinu, Amen.